Live and learn again, everyone. It's Deep Dive Zone, a Sonic review series for fans of all shapes and sizes. I'm your host, Evan, joined as always by my comrades Lauren and Bruce. And guys, today we are finishing off the Sonic Adventure 2 section of Sonic X. And, starting something new, question mark?
A little bit.
Yeah, it's new.
It's certainly something. But
Yeah.
for now, we're just doing those last two episodes. We're starting off here with episode 37, Space Colony Arc Battle, or Robotnik's Revenge. Battles commence between Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and their respective rivals. Meanwhile, Earth and the Ark alike are shocked by the secrets of Gerald Robotnik and the ugly truth of 50 years ago.
Ooh. I don't know why I did that. It's not like that's new. It's new information to us.
It's fine, it's for dramatic effect.
Yeah, sure.
Lots of things in this arc are for dramatic effect. Namely, probably the most interesting addition to this arc. It's hard to recap the events one by one when talking about these because it's like we start with the reporters at some old folks' home. And
Yeah.
that's going to be one of the more interesting things to talk about in this episode. But we really
It's
pull
not
back.
interesting to talk about it yet.
Yeah, we pull back and don't quite talk about it yet.
Yeah.
We do. I want to note this scene of Rouge accessing the top secret Project Shadow documents. Yeah, it's the same as in Adventure 2. But if you
Right.
look closely at the screen, all of the windows say Sonic 37 Cut 15.
Huh.
That's weird.
I guess
Oh
they
yeah, they
just
do.
copied the name of the file they were drawing onto it.
Sure.
Because this is. I guess I don't know exactly which cut of animation this is, but I'd have to guess it's Cut 15 of episode 37, so.
Sure.
Seems like something they would do. The thing I want to note about this scene is that in this version of events, Eggman has absolutely no reason to give Rouge the password to the Ark. Like, that's just foolish.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think there's such a thing as getting too familiar with your own material, and that can lead them to be like, oh, well, Rouge is with Eggman. Of course he does that. That's what happens in the game. Why would the motivation differ at all?
hmm
That's not an excuse, obviously, but
No, but explaining it that way does kind of make sense.
yeah. This next scene is certainly something. So, Scarlet and Stewart have located this old guy who is named Phillips, I think, and he, well, we learn why they wanted to find him. He was on the Ark 50 years ago, but doesn't want to talk about it.
hmm
And so, characteristically, it's like with any old people. You try to get some information out of them, they tell you no, you could die, and so you leave. But now the men in black from last time are just out and about, and they don't look like they're really keeping anything secret, even when they're
Not
not
really.
attacking them yet. But they're attacking them now.
Yeah.
But rather than having any guns, they just have like a kung fu fight. Spy skills fighting.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, sure, why not?
Yeah, and it's like, it's intriguing. You're like, who do these guys work for? But it's
That's a great question. It would deserve a great answer, I'm sure.
So they're fighting. One of them grabs Scarlet, but he gets karate chopped in the back by Phillips, the old guy, and he says, "I don't want anybody else to die."
All right.
Yeah, it's certainly something. Anyway, now the shuttle crash happens. Lauren, you want to talk about that?
Yeah.
Just that there's absolutely no reason, again, being too familiar with your source material. I
Yeah.
don't understand. It's just,
Yes.
like, played for laughs and makes
Yeah.
Knuckles look dumb, which we have too much of, always.
In the original game, he grabs the steering wheel because they accidentally knocked the emerald shards out and he has to go pick them up again now. In
Right.
this, the Master Emerald is just on the Ark. What are you doing?
The emerald reaches out to him and he panics for some reason.
Well, and it's weird because unlike the Rouge scene where it's important for her learning about Project Shadow, this serves no purpose. I don't know
really
why they felt the need to
doesn't.
put it here.
Yeah, they may
Yeah.
as well just have had them land. I guess it separates Knuckles from the group, but he just does that anyway.
Yeah, he would have just left anyway. There was no reason to separate him in this way.
Yeah. Well, he does have the fight with Rouge, and hilariously,
He
this is better
does.
animated than the Sonic vs. Shadow fight.
I mean, we haven't had anything that's like really well animated in a while.
It's fine. It's nothing
Yeah,
special. I
yeah.
do want to note that rather than Rouge just stepping off the side like an idiot, Knuckles punches her off the side.
Makes a lot more
It
sense.
makes a lot more sense. Yeah.
I mean, in Adventure 2, you could argue she got distracted, but it's not great argument.
Yes.
But the result is the same. He still grabs her hand, and she's like, "Oh, you just wanted to hold my hand, didn't you?"
Yes.
You know, it's the
Writing.
whole tsundere. Is that how you
Yeah.
say it?
Yeah, it's Tsundere.
I want to be dead now.
In the game,
Alright.
I don't remember it super clearly, but I feel like they sort of left on better terms than here, although I could be wrong about that. It seems like she's just like, "Meh," and then leaves.
In the game, she turns back and kind of smiles at him because
Yeah.
I don't know why exactly. I guess she likes Knuckles. But yeah, that doesn't happen in this, and I
Yeah.
guess that in a way, it's like I'm actually okay with that because they do more with Knuckles and Rouge later in the show anyway. So
Mhm.
Well, it makes it very confusing as to why. I guess she just got bored. Like, I don't know what Rouge even wanted. I mean, yeah, she picked up the Master Emerald for kicks, I suppose, in the first place.
for the
Yeah.
SA2 adaptation, I think she's probably the weak link overall.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Which is funny because, we talked about how much better a decision it was to not break up the Master Emerald.
Well, yeah, because it was just a dumb thing to do in Adventure 2. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Although it does, in this case, it does lead to the kind of funny visual of Knuckles having to haul around this giant gem.
So ridiculous
I
looking.
absolutely love they don't make a small version of the Master Emerald in this. That was a good change.
Yeah, I
Just-
never liked that in SA2. It's like you
That
have
is weird.
him, because you have him hold it in like Sonic 3 and Knuckles in his ending anyway. So
That's true.
no crazy gadget, obviously. We cut.
No, but
through
Eggman does mention Crazy Gadget earlier in the episode.
That's true.
He does. Oh,
Yes, he does. He says he's either at or going to Crazy Gadget, which brought back traumatic memories.
oh, totally missed that. Yeah, so we still have Amy being held hostage, but we don't have the giant gun pointed at her head. Instead, she's just caught with like a robot arm.
I mean,
The,
whatever. I don't care.
they can't show gun.
We also don't have the thing that I disliked in SA2, which was that Sonic was right at the cannon, ready to pop the gem in the game, whereas here
Oh,
he's
yeah.
not. So it feels less like, can't you just do that and leave?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a little.
That's
Just
fair.
whatever. I don't know. We have the
Yeah.
whole scene, right? Sonic's about to hand over the fake emerald. He gets put in the tube, and in this version, seemingly, Eggman has absolutely no suspicion that the emerald is fake.
right.
Yeah. That's why I was like, okay, fine. I guess they improved one thing because they mostly made this worse. Instead of Eggman being smart and outfoxing Tails, he learns that it's a fake emerald by complete accident. Tails is just
Yeah.
desperate. He's like, oh, blow Sonic into space, which, might I say, he wants the emerald. He wouldn't blow Sonic into space. It's quite obvious he's just threatening them,
Sure.
and he's not ready to do that. But then Tails is like, do it. It's a fake. I'll give you the real one. And then Eggman's like, oh wait, it's a fake.
Oh, it's a fake.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
blow
I
him
have
into
nothing
space.
to lose now.
Yeah. No,
It makes
that's
Tails look like an
really-
idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's like he was being dumb in the game too, but it at least made more sense because Eggman did know that it was a fake.
Right.
And yeah, well, Sonic gets shot out in the tube as usual. Amy cries over him, etc. Tails has his "I have to be the big man and fight you, Eggman" moment, except they're not in equally powered walkers, so it's not nearly as climactic a fight.
Yeah,
And he doesn't
Yeah.
burst out the giant "fuck you" laser, so what's even the point?
true.
But who cares about that? The real thing that people care about with this episode is Phillips here.
Yeah, I can understand that.
He reveals the whole shebang, which is not only was he on the Ark, he was one of the soldiers assigned to the raid, and worse than
Mhm.
that, he's the one that shot Maria Robotnik.
I can't believe that Sonic X dared to give a face to the soldier that shot Maria. That's
You know
absolutely
what?
wild.
That is pretty ballsy.
It's certainly something, and there are other good decisions about this. I like that the flashback starts on scientists experimenting with a lizard. Um,
Yeah, makes sense.
and I think that saying this is the guy who did it, there is certainly a confidence in making this a character who exists in the show.
Hmm.
Um, but this is the follow up to the thing that I was talking about last time, which is that what happens here and what we saw in Shadow's memory modified or not, I think is much weaker because in this version, rather than a gunshot going off in the hallway and Maria and Shadow being totally alone, and Maria talking to Shadow, in this version, he chases Maria into the room, shoots her point blank, and we don't even see Shadow.
Yeah, that is something I noticed also.
A flashback later, I believe, does show just Shadow and Maria
It
as
does, yeah.
Shadow is going out into space. So, the way I read this actually is that Maria is there pulling a switch to, I don't know, move a capsule in position, but not actually launch it into space. Phillips is telling her not to do that, and then he shoots her. He is absolutely horrified at what he's just done. Maria, by sheer force of will, goes on and talks to Shadow. You can see she's like on the ground when she's talking to him. Like she's shot. They don't go graphic because they don't expect them to. And then she's on the edge of death there. So she's already been shot at that point.
Yes, and this is certainly a thing specific to my opinion, is that they are reframing this as something, at least in a way, personal, and that's my problem with it. Is, well, a, you're attaching a face to the killing of Maria Robotnik, whereas I view her as someone who was killed by a system, and b,
Mm.
you're telling us that all of that stuff that we saw with Shadow and Maria happened while this guy was just over there in the corner.
He could have left.
Yeah, I think
I
he
mean,
left.
she is shot. She could have even fallen to the ground, and he thinks she's dead, and he just leaves.
Well, he leans up against the door like he's like paralyzed by what he has done. I don't know. I don't know. It's just weird because like it also casts Maria as less of a victim, which I don't mind her having autonomy, but it does reframe the story because he warns her twice. She looks over at him and does it anyway. And certainly if we're going with the whole Black Arms shit, which aren't in this show, but if we're going with the fact that Shadow the Hedgehog establishes that she knew about the Black Arms, I guess that would make sense. It feels like a very big difference from what SA2 wanted you to think about it.
It is a big change.
But that being said, I think that for what they were going for, I guess in this show they portray it fine.
Yeah.
And, like it or not, it is interesting to have done this at all. Like you
That's
guys were
true,
saying,
yeah.
it is quote unquote ballsy. So yeah. Meanwhile, back in the children's cartoon show, Sonic is alive thanks to fake chaos control. We've spared enough words on that too.
Yeah, we don't need to go into that anymore.
Rouge steals a disc of Project Shadow data and gets caught by Shadow, as with the game.
Yeah, again, kind of weird that Shadow had to figure out that she was a spy. I feel like Eggman should have known that, but maybe he somehow didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what the dub says. Does the dub butcher the translation bad enough to make it sound like Shadow had heard of Rouge for notoriety, like in the game?
Can't remember. Wait, maybe I can check.
I'm just remembering because in SA2 he says, "You're the government spy, Rouge the Bat," which is like, what?
Okay, no, he doesn't recognize her. He just realizes that she's a spy.
Okay.
Mm.
So Tails and Eggman blow up each other's mechs. Eggman steals the emerald and runs away. We're not worrying about how to fit together the SA2 endings. I think we're not really having the explosion that doesn't explode.
I mean, it'd be weird to make it ambiguous on
Yeah.
purpose.
But in this Shadow and Rouge scene, she does finally clarify that thing that was kind of screwing with us in SA2, which is that 2 capsules were sent to Earth after the raid by Maria, and neither one was ever found, at least according to the records that Gunn has.
Mm-hmm.
And she explicitly says they couldn't lock something in Prison Island if they couldn't find it. which is really suggesting the idea that this isn't the original Shadow. And certainly, if Gerald just built a new one, that would explain a lot of things.
My immediate thought was going to the Shadow androids.
Well, that all ties together. I think that
Yeah,
even before Sonic Heroes, they had the idea of there being multiple Shadows.
sure.
But, of course, Shadow gets his, usual, even if my memories aren't real, they're still mine. That whole thing.
Mm.
So Sonic and Shadow both heading towards the Eclipse Cannon, and we're gonna get their big fight in a place that does not look anything like it does in the game. It's like this red industrial area with moving escalator staircase
Oh,
or
yeah,
sidewalks.
That's
Um,
fine. I don't need them to copy things
it
one to
doesn't
one
need
as
to
long
look
as they're not
exactly
confusing the plot because of it.
no,
right.
I don't
That's a good
have I
way.
don't have a problem with it being this necessarily. It's just like SA2, the arc is really cool looking from an art direction standpoint. So it's a
Sure.
shame that that doesn't really translate.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I do think the game's
Yeah.
arena is superior, but that's okay.
Yeah. And Shadow uses Chaos Spear in this fight, which he almost never does in the game.
Mm,
Well, depending on how you move.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm speaking relative to the experience of someone who knows how to beat Shadow fast, so fair enough.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
I think I got it plenty of times in my fight, but
Yeah.
that
Notably,
fight
Sonic
was
does
terrible.
not use Chaos Control with the fake Emerald at all. Not that he can't. I mean, he did earlier, but I'd like to think that maybe that would just like break it if he did it too many times and not just infinitely. Like, why would you not just keep that thing around all the time?
I mean, yeah,
But they're too late. It's like it doesn't actually matter whether Sonic or Shadow wins in this version because Eggman's going to try and fire the cannon anyway.
of
Um,
course.
but of course, it doesn't work. We've got the Gerald Robotnik screens.
Also, doesn't it look like Shadow, like, destroys the cannon when he's fighting Sonic?
It does.
He's definitely breaking stuff, but I don't know exactly where they are in relation to the cannon. So
Well, so Sonic was heading for the barrel,
yeah,
so I assume that's where Shadow is as well.
the Eclipse cannon never fires again in the X cannon anyway. So it's like
Right.
if they did break it, you wouldn't even know.
Oh,
Fair.
yeah.
It's not like Shadow the Hedgehog, yeah. But yeah, we're heading into Endgame. The silent shot of the countdown is probably the best cliffhanger in the show, if I'm honest. It's very ominous.
Yeah.
But moving on to episode 38, Maria's request, everyone's request, or Showdown in Space. All hell has broken loose as Dr. Gerald's revenge plan sends the Ark hurtling towards the Earth. Heroes and villains alike must work together to save the world. And hey, Rouge has a spaceship?
Yeah, okay, so that's
Apparently.
Rouge. That's Rouge's. I thought that was just like an escape craft for the Ark.
Well, it's like, I mean, do they say that? Because
No, they don't actually explain what the fuck the ship is, as
maybe
far as I
that's
can
what it is.
tell.
It's just we've never seen that before.
No, we haven't.
And we were talking about the transporter in SA2. They don't show anything like that in X. So it's like, is that how she gets to? It can't be how she. It can't be her ship because she came here on Chaos Control with Shadow. I don't. Did they go back to Earth at some point? I don't think so.
Maybe Eggman took the ship?
Yeah, maybe it's Eggman's.
Eh. But yeah,
So,
that's
real quick, I have a quick question, or a
yes.
quick thing to point out, I guess. So in the games, it makes sense that the Eclipse Cannon uses the Chaos Emeralds. I
Yeah.
don't understand why, in the context of the show, it would use the Chaos
Hey,
Emeralds.
yeah, the Chaos Emeralds are from Sonic's planet.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, you're right. I'm glad you pointed that out because I completely missed that.
Yeah,
Um,
I was thinking about that while I was watching the beginning of this episode.
Okay, there's a few possibilities. The more likely one is that once again, it's a weird connection between the two worlds. After all, Eggman was in Sonic's world, despite
fair.
Gerald being in this world. Maybe
Yeah.
Gerald knew about the Chaos Emeralds.
I'm guessing that's the case. Also, I think it's just like the writers just didn't give a shit.
Well,
Well,
that's the actual most likely
Yeah, that's
reason.
the actual
Out of
reason.
universe.
The out of universe.
if I want to
reasoning,
go
yeah.
for an in-universe explanation, it could be that because the worlds were once one, Gerald could study this and that. If we are really saying that the way that Eggman is in Sonic World is because he was born before the planet split or something, then that could be true of the Chaos Emeralds as well. I think the
Yeah,
more
that's
likely
what I was
explanation
thinking.
is that Chaos Control in this show can teleport the emeralds between worlds, so it may have been just that they
God.
were on Earth for a certain period of time, and it was kept secret like everything else.
Yeah.
There's also a very simple explanation, which is that the Ark was not designed to use the Chaos Emeralds, and Eggman adjusted it.
You know what? I'll take that.
Maybe it was designed to use something similar to the emeralds that could exist in this world.
Sure.
But yeah, that's hilarious. I never even thought about that.
I was thinking about that. I was like, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
Oh wait, I just realized there's a reason later where it's impossible. My simple explanation. It has to have been designed for the Chaos Emeralds, actually.
Oh yeah, because it's the Master Emerald Shrine.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
In any case, here's one nice thing. We actually see the canon seal off the access to the Chaos Emeralds. They don't just, like...
Yes.
There's not that confusion like in the game, like why don't you just rip them out?
No, yeah, I appreciate that they actually show that.
Shadow bolts from his fight with Sonic once the plan is in motion. We get a little more detail from Gerald's diary, which successfully clarifies that Gerald was still on the Ark as he learned of Maria's death.
Right.
Which leaves the possibility that, I mean, I think he's doing a lot of this by proxy of Shadow, but there is at least some plausible deniability that he could have set some of this up beforehand. I think that learning the raid was a week long also, like, that opened my eyes to the possibilities of some of that.
I like the line from Eggman where he says, Grandpa, destroying a planet is one thing, but destroying your grandson is another.
Amazing. Amazing line. So that's all going down, and we get a pretty clumsy explanation of the Men in Black, as I think you were alluding to before, which is that they were just some spin-off part of the government made to silence anyone who looks for the truth on Shadow, including the other parts of the government.
Yeah, I kind of took it as it was a conspiracy within Gun.
It doesn't make any sense. It's not really much of an explanation at all.
Yeah.
Which just we don't really have a name or a face to attach to this. They're just guys.
Yeah, we don't really know who's the one behind this. I think it might hit a lot better if we knew or had a face behind it.
Yeah, I mean, you should have had someone that, like, President Mike was, like, having tensions with or something.
Sure.
You know, or some part of the government which is like, oh, the president doesn't have full authority here. And it's like, what do you mean? I'm the president, motherfucker. And it's like, sorry, previous orders, yada, yada, yada. But we don't really get that. They're just kind of
Not
ambiguous
really.
CIA douchebags.
Basically, yeah.
Scarlet does not get an apology for her dad being killed, by the way. And
I
yeah,
wouldn't
they just get
expect them
arrested
to
by the
anyway.
cops, and that's it. And then they tell Topaz, like, yeah, it was bad guys. But it's alright. We get the Cannon's core sequence, which is covered via a montage, which actually conveys the sense of urgency probably better than the game by having everyone's tasks take place at the same time. Yeah, it's all happening kind of like you'd expect. Although it's funny that they have to just sort of invent hazards for the characters because like you can't just have them do platforming or whatever.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I do enjoy Eggman just punching one of the turrets.
Eggman getting physical always a
It's
plus.
always funny, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's something: the eye catch cards refer to Final Hazard by its correct name. Did you guys know that in SA2 it was a mistranslation?
Wait,
I-
what?
No, I did not.
The
No, I
original
didn't.
name for Final Hazard
Oh.
is Final Lizard.
Fun fact, my dyslexia ignored the word lizard and just put hazard there.
Well, why wouldn't you? Because that's a really stupid name.
It is, yeah.
Final Hazard sounds scary and slightly cryptic. Final Lizard is like, what? What happened to the other ones?
Happy accidents, as they say, I suppose.
Yeah. It's not a mistake I'm upset about.
Yeah, it's fair.
But then we get to maybe the most controversial decision of this arc, which is Shadow's heel face turn.
Oh, God.
Chris has reminded Shadow of Maria in this story before,
at least once, but
I don't know how I feel about them going so far as to outright give Amy's moment to Chris.
I hate that so fucking much. Once again, Amy gets torn from doing anything at all.
She did not
Uh,
have many pages in SA2, but you can really
No, but
feel the apathy coming off the page.
yeah, it's annoying as all hell.
I honestly didn't care at all. I thought it made sense because, yeah, Chris would remind Shadow of Maria. There's some logic there.
So,
I,
so
Okay, I will agree that it makes sense. My problem is that this show has done everything to prevent Amy from doing anything. So
honestly,
when they take away her big moment in SA2, it's annoying.
they,
I agree with both of you. I think that Amy struggles to have a reason to be around a lot of the time, but I also agree that for what they did with Chris and Shadow, I'm not saying this isn't a logical conclusion of that. I would have just
Sure.
preferred a different story.
Yeah.
I think there are two issues here. They have to have Chris in here because Chris is part of the show.
Yeah.
So I think this is a perfectly reasonable thing to do with him. But I also think they shouldn't have left Amy in the dust. Just have her be involved in shutting down the Ark.
That's what I was
Perfect.
thinking.
Yes.
Why not just send her to go get involved with that, and you can then that way she's still doing something important, and Chris can take her role to change Shadow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would be
That
mildly
makes
okay with
sense.
that. I would still like it less, but it would be fine.
I would put up with it. I would be okay with that. But the fact that Amy is still basically just standing there watching Chris get his ass beaten by Shadow
Yes, that's the
just
other
That is
part
annoys
of
awkward.
this,
me.
is that Chris gets the shit kicked out of him.
And Tanaka, Amy's even about ready to go help Chris, and Tanaka just stops her.
Yeah, you're the one who's supposed to be protecting the child, man. That's your
It's
job.
it's so fucking annoying.
Whew, boy.
Ah,
Um, yeah, just a weird, like, very antagonistic version of the scene with Chris arguing with Shadow.
yeah.
And Shadow, just imagine you were playing SA2 and you had that whole scene with Amy, and then he just right in the face.
Ah,
But yeah, that's a hell of a thing. And yes, we do get these two Maria flashbacks, one with her talking about how much she wants to see Earth and all that, and then the other one with her on the ground, as Lauren said before, pleading with Shadow and all that, and the real message, etc. And yeah, they should have given Amy something to do for Canon Score, because they even give friggin' Deco and Boko something to do, because they have them
yeah, they're
carry
carrying
the
the
emerald for
Master
Knuckles.
Emerald. Yeah, it's like, Amy has the hammer. She could have just been there to deal with the turrets that Eggman was fucking punching.
Yeah. Amy and Eggman team up. You don't see that very often.
You know what? I would gladly take that over what that scene was.
Anyway, here's the Bio Lizard.
Cool.
So you can see, I don't know when you see it exactly, but I'm just going to point out now that the emeralds are at the altar.
hmm
Why? How did they get there?
Magic.
It's a good question.
Science.
I don't remember how they get there in the game, if I'm honest.
I don't know either.
Probably
um,
not explained.
I just failed to see that, I think, when we covered SA2. It's very strange.
That is very odd.
Yeah. I guess you could assume in SA2 that maybe they actually did take them out, but the Ark's self-destruct doesn't actually need the emeralds for it.
I guess?
Because, like, why would it? I mean, it just moves the thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, yeah, they fight the Bio Lizard, which is to say they run past it, and Shadow fights the Bio Lizard.
Right. Like it's supposed to happen.
It looks kind of cool. Like, I don't think it does anything crazy with the animation, but I like
No,
the
but it
shading
looks
on it.
cool enough.
Yeah.
No supporting me, though, which is disappointing.
Well, I didn't expect that.
No,
Yeah.
at this point, I expect no game music, but I'm still going to be disappointed.
Fair, I suppose.
Yeah. So, Shadow beats the Bio Lizard, but then it teleports away, as usual, so it's super time.
Right.
They don't make the jerk-off hand motion like in SA2. but we get Supersonic and Super Shadow, and
Hell yeah.
I guess I don't. It's like, every Supersonic appearance makes me feel like I have to say something, but this is playing pretty close to the source material.
Yeah, at this point we're not deviating all that much, so...
With the exception of Sonic teleporting to the control room to put his hand on Chris's face for a second.
Yeah.
Well, he's healing Chris because it's possible that Shadow beat him so badly he's on the edge of death.
Shadow
You say
just
that, but I
killed
don't.
Chris.
It doesn't look like he gets any better.
No, he just wakes up.
Yeah.
He's not physically healed, he's just, like, mentally healed. Or maybe internally. I don't know. Supersonic can basically do whatever the fuck
Wait. Internally, did Shadow cause internal bleeding?
I mean, with what he was doing to Chris, probably.
Yeesh.
My question was, how did Sonic know to do that? So I'm picturing that Shadow
omniscient.
beats up Chris, and it's like, oh wait, I remember what Maria really wanted, and went over to Sonic, and he's like, Sonic,
Can you heal
I
this
just realized
child?
something. Yeah.
You need to go help that guy. I beat the shit out of him.
Hey, can you go heal that kid? I don't feel like it's right for me to go do it.
No. Shadow's like, Sonic, you need to go heal Chris. And Sonic's like, why? What happened to him? He's like, he fell down some stairs.
Yeah, Shadow doesn't want to admit what he did.
Yeah. But yeah, it's time to fight Final Hazard, Final Lizard, whatever you want to call it. In this version, I'm pretty sure this didn't happen in the game. A bunch of people get out onto the street and watch the battle in the sky.
Yeah, give them your power. Oh wait, no, that's Dragon Ball. Sorry.
This wouldn't be visible to the naked eye, or at least if
Thank
it was,
you.
it would already be over.
Thank you.
Yeah.
They comment that it's just when they start being able to see it. They comment that it's just entering the atmosphere. I looked it up. That's 10,000 kilometers, or 6,213 miles.
Well, I'm trying to think.
You can't see that.
I'm trying to think of the CG cutscene in SA2 where the cannon blows up the moon, and whether you can see the arc in the sky in that scene. It makes sense that you can see the laser. That's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. No, I don't think you can see the arc because the arc is also significantly smaller than the moon.
Yeah, I feel like they only show the arc like in the space shots specifically. So,
I believe so.
Yeah, they should not be able to watch this.
I can maybe see someone using the argument, oh, they're seeing like the auras of Supersonic and Shadow and the Final Hazard. That's still really stupid.
Yeah. It's okay though. We get some slick animation as they fight.
Yeah.
And the fight itself does not have any specific music.
No.
But that's okay because he goes
disappointing.
down real quick actually. And everybody cheers on Sonic and Shadow, including a hallucination of Maria.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's certainly something, but that pushes him forward. It gives him motivation, and he's like, I gotta power up. I am Shadow the Hedgehog. And then his limiter rings pop off, and finally fucking Live and Learn, bitch, starts playing.
That's the full title of the song.
It's the Sonic X version.
The Sonic X version, of course.
I was gonna say it's the Jesse Pinkman version, but sure. It's like no matter what the show does, Live and Learn gives me chills. So it's great.
Oh yeah, you can't fuck up using Live and Learn. So that's cool.
Yeah, and so I guess that replaces the symphonic score that SA2 uses for the chaos control scene. Is I guess how they did it.
Yeah.
And Eggman also gives his ending speech here via radio while flying away on the jet.
Yeah, he just stole the shuttle they took.
Which is like, it's not even over yet, dude. What are you doing?
Eggman's like, I gotta get the fuck out of here before the government shows up.
Yeah, he's just making himself scarce. He's like, everything's fine now. I can leave.
She know full well is gonna get to the Ark as soon as they can.
It kind of makes sense for Goofy Sonic X Eggman, but I'm so familiar with SA2's ending where he gets kind of introspective and just sits there talking to Tails.
Sure. That's a better moment, but Sonic X, as you pointed out, is a lot goofier.
Yeah.
So Eggman's gonna make him scarce.
But that being said, why would you cut out Shadow's final moment?
That's a good point.
It doesn't have the "this is what Maria wanted."
The episode would have run too long. sad part is that's probably actually the reason why, which is really stupid.
I don't know, because
Well,
I feel like there's other
what?
stuff you could have cut if you wanted to do that.
Oh, sure,
We
they
didn't.
could have, but they
We
didn't.
didn't need those extra shots of Francis and Bokun. I'm pretty sure we could have done without those.
Yeah, probably,
Maybe they're
but
only
we
a
got
second or
them.
two, but you could do all sorts of stuff. I don't get it.
Or maybe instead of the ending theme, you could have done Shadow. You could have just shown Shadow. I don't know. There's
Also a good
plenty of.
idea. They do that all the time.
Yeah.
There's no way for us to know.
So instead of Rouge asking where's Shadow and getting wistful, Chris asks that, and Sonic hands over his remaining inhibitor ring, and
Yeah,
he cries over
you know.
this guy he had one conversation with and got punched by several times.
Chris was getting Stockholm syndrome.
I'm not.
He
arguing
mistook
with
him for Sonic. He thought Sonic died.
Right.
Yeah. So,
In the end here, Rouge makes an interesting point when she's trying to like be comforting, I guess. She's like, maybe this is what Gerald actually wanted, and he wanted Shadow to stop him, which is an interesting idea
Interesting
that he was
thought, yeah.
conflicted. And like he implanted the fake memories, but maybe that's why the real memories were still there. Because I can't. Who knows how memory replacement works? I don't know if he could have done a full mind wipe or whatever, but maybe that was intentional.
I mean, yeah, memory fuckery is all medical mumbo jumbo anyway.
certainly with the way that Gerald has evolved in the games, even without the mistranslation in Shadow the Hedgehog, they still made Gerald more sympathetic in that game in some ways.
Yeah.
So if they wanted to say that at this time, then maybe.
Sure.
But yeah, this is the end of SA2, and it's like in my notes it says this is I think this is the better of the two game adaptations, but they kind of did the climax dirty for me in certain ways.
I think it's a perfectly fine adaptation.
I think it's that it loses some of what made SA2's story in its best moments good. It's not a terrible story in its own right, though.
Not really. It's not bad. The better experience is probably still playing SA2 and getting the original story, but I think you could say this is a decent enough facsimile of that story.
Yeah, I'm not really a big fan of either adaptation in X. Honestly, they're serviceable enough.
Best way to look at it is probably serviceable enough.
But yeah, I agree that it's worse than how it is in the game.
Yeah, the best experience for both of these games is actually playing them, as much as that can be sometimes a bit of a nightmare.
I'd like to point out, to their credit, they changed some things. They don't include some things from the games, but they did include the famous final line from Sonic bidding Shadow farewell. It's
Yes.
accurate both in the original and the dub.
Yes, it is.
Sayonara, or adios, I guess, depending on your language.
Wow.
So yeah, so they didn't stick the ending for most of the ending, but they did stick the ending of the ending.
They stuck the actual ending.
Yeah.
Or literal ending, excuse me.
Yeah. But you know what happens when Supersonic appears. It's a chaos control event, which means that we're going to have some interesting things here moving into episode 39, the Chaotix Detective Agency, or Defective Detectives in the dub.
I almost had a
name a lot
panic
better.
attack and thought they were going to adapt something with the Chaotix in it that was terrible, but they didn't.
Well, they could have
What, the
started
drug
adapting
arc?
Sonic Heroes. Oh my god.
Any number of things. These guys are in bad
This could have
places.
this could have been the start of a Sonic Heroes adaptation if we were really unlucky.
Could have.
That wouldn't be... You wouldn't have to play it.
Don't worry, it's still Sonic Heroes.
Amy would be intolerable.
After the
God,
Chaos
that's right,
Control
she
event from the
would.
Ark disaster, more pieces of Sonic's world are transported to Earth, leaving the heroes to be trailed by three very strange detectives. So,
That's one way to describe them.
yes, we had Chaos Control, and a bunch of Sonic stuff has come to Earth, including 2 houses and a bunch of tiny animals. Fleckies are in the show, even though they were
Wow.
already in the show.
Hmm.
Sure they were, but don't worry about that.
I don't understand the point of this.
Game things.
Yeah, very strange. Equally strange is this first scene with Knuckles and Rouge here.
Yeah, what the fuck are they even talking about?
It's very strange because you don't see what Knuckles just asked Rouge, but she responds to him like he just asked her to move in with him.
Yeah, and that's odd.
She makes a sex joke just like she did with Topaz in the Japanese version.
Yeah.
I still am not clear exactly. I think it was something to do with the Master Emerald.
So, I'm not sure if this means this was the original intention, but I think it probably is, because otherwise it comes out of nowhere. In the dub, it is clearly that they're talking about how, with more people from Sonic's world showing up, that they might be forced to, like, move, because the people might become, like, prejudiced against the Mobians. And then Rouge's like, oh, well, if we have to move, then maybe you can come to live with me or whatever.
Oh,
that's
that's not
interesting.
the impression I got in.
In
I don't know if they
Japanese,
changed
that's
that.
completely different. Jesus.
Yeah, very, very strange scene.
Well, it's something like that's brought up by someone else later in the episode. I
Yeah.
don't remember off the top of my head who, though.
Anyway, Chris is still sad about the stuff that happened. I don't care. I'm sorry, Chris. I don't care about your problems.
Yeah, neither do I.
Especially since we got the Chaotix. It's their clubhouse.
Yay.
Their agency was one of the houses that got teleported here. And they are a bunch of goof-asses. They are like a Three Stooges gang, which I guess they kind of are in the games, but they play it way up in the show.
I mean, the show is going to enhance character traits a lot more than the games probably are.
Yeah, they do this little routine for learning where they are from the paper, and additionally, by watching Sonic X.
Jesus Christ. I was really worried this was going to end up being a fucking clip show episode.
It still went on for a while.
It did. It was like a solid minute and a half or 2 minutes.
Yeah. This is the most elaborate, fourth wall break, not fourth wall break, because they make a joke about it being a show made to chronicle their adventers, but it's also just Sonic X.
Yeah, we just get the same intro. Also, them watching Sonic X gives us a little teensy little bit of lore that apparently compact discs don't exist on Mobius.
Oh, wow. What a revelation.
They don't know how to... Vector doesn't know how to watch a CD.
Oh.
He tries to put it in a projector. Apparently also flat screen televisions don't.
See, I just like to think that means Vector is, not tech literate. Although I guess that
none of the three of them
headphones,
recognized what it was. He's an audiophile. He'd have to be tech literate. Well, I don't know if he's actually an audiophile, but those headphones make him look like he is.
The show is even still named Sonic X. There's a billboard that you can see.
Yeah, I noticed that.
And yeah, it plays the opening, and I timed it 1.5 minutes of clips from the episodes. That's a long
I was
time
right. Okay.
in a show like this.
It's pretty clear that the grind was getting to them a little bit.
Oh yeah, that was definitely a way for them to just take some time away from this episode's runtime that they don't have to edit, edit.
And the self-indulgence is off the charts to the point where it doesn't even make sense. Charmy is reading the DVD thing or whatever, and he mentions that it's in 5.1 audio, which is hilarious because the show's not. Okay. I monitor several fan edit, fan dubbing projects for the series on account of it not having a great dub. And it's funny because the first few episodes of 4Kids are in 5.1 audio, but
really?
Yeah, it's only the first 12, I think.
That's weird.
Then they just stopped doing that, and that sucks. Because if it had separate vocal and music tracks for every episode, so much easier to create an uncut dub with something like that.
Sure, yeah. That's fascinating that they started off with it and then decided to just say, fuck it.
Also, SBO stole that DVD player and left an IOU.
Yeah, he's going to return it, don't worry.
Yeah. And
Speaking of the dub, I'm just going to say randomly, it doesn't have much relevance, but I checked because I've been getting curious about certain things, and apparently the footage used is completely different in the dub and the original. I don't know why they show different scenes when they're recapping things. It's an odd change. I don't know why.
That's weird. Maybe
That's really weird.
maybe the recap runs for slightly less time in the dub. That seems like something they would cut down for commercial time.
Yes, that's
Maybe I didn't
probably the
check that.
case. That's
Yeah.
probably the case.
And yeah, I don't know about the the projector thing. And finally, this was probably cut out of the dub. There's this weird joke about a
Oh,
DVD extra where Knuckles tries on a skimpy bikini.
that was really weird.
Well, it's hilarious because they joke about like, oh, how this crazy DVD extra, and Vec's like, I don't want to watch that, and then after it just automatically plays, and they're like, no, no, turn it off. And well, that's not on the actual DVD extras. I checked, so yeah, very very strange introduction to the characters that who spent a lot of time. It's just a weird. Why did you do that?
I mean, there'd
They
be better
also
ways to introduce the Chaotix.
Well, that's the thing, is that they also then introduce themselves to the audience and talk directly to the camera after that.
To be fair, if any characters are going to do that, they're going to break the fourth wall this heavily, I would expect it either from these three or Eggman.
Yeah. It just doesn't stop, though, because, like, even
No,
Charmy, SBO and Vector both get these big, like, cool guy shots, and then
And then
Charmy
Charmy
tries
gets
to,
cut
but there's
off.
not enough time, so he's like, you have to settle for the commercial eye catch. Which is really bothersome, because if you guys know that that's how those are, stop spoiling things with them.
Yeah, that's annoying that they keep doing that.
This is a Cuckoo Bananas wacky nonsense episode for game character introductions, which is just strange. And yeah, it's crazy, and they've got a job. They've got a job, but
They do.
yeah. Hey, here's something interesting. Eggman is launching a rocket into space.
From his
Oh,
original
heck yeah.
island.
Yeah. And Gunn is like, what the hell are you doing? He's like, well, I blew up the moon before, so now I'm repairing it.
You know, I feel bad.
He's such a philanthropist, that guy.
Yeah, it's
I
some real,
think that this is
some real
great,
hearts in mind.
because it explains how the moon can theoretically look full again, and it
Yeah.
works into the goofy personality of Eggman, whereas Game Eggman would never take a thing like that back.
Oh no,
This-
no, he would 100% do it as part of a plan, though.
Well,
Well, and-
I
And
think
that's
this
clearly
is.
what. Well, that's what I was gonna say. Clearly, that's what the Eggman is going for as well.
Yeah, but no, I like it. I kind of wish the games had done something like this, even if it made the moon look identical to before. You could just the
That's their
idea
easy
that
hand wave.
every single Sonic game you play, when you see the moon, there's just a big shaved off side of it on the back that you're not seeing.
I don't get why they can't just draw like a broken moon. Like that's rad. Lots of things.
I think it's
do
because
that.
they keep forgetting.
I think it's because they
I
probably
don't care.
sometimes they probably straight up just use photos of the real moon probably for it.
That's probably part of it.
Which is not to
also.
say you shouldn't still just cut that in half. I think it's
Yeah,
just
just
that
take
it
the
leads to
Photoshop
questions
tool.
they don't feel like answering. I don't know.
They've already answered the question years ago. You're just seeing the unbroken side.
Yeah, but
Which is
why
stupid.
they feel the
Which
need
is
to do
stupid.
that instead of just doing it? Yeah,
Well, that's
we've discussed this to death too. Let's keep moving.
the entire fan base has discussed it to death.
The Egg Moon in practice looks a bit gaudy because the metal is all really dark colored and visually busy.
Yeah, a little bit.
So I don't know about that one, but it's at least something. And
It's at least circle.
and hey, we get Vector directly referencing Columbo when talking about getting work.
Ah, you beat me to it. I was
Oh.
gonna point that out because I was absolutely shocked to see that because, I mean, I guess I don't really know Japanese culture very well at all, but I wouldn't expect to see a Columbo reference in this show. It
I
caught me
do
completely
believe
off guard.
Columbo had some sort of presence in Japan.
That's
A lot
I didn't
of
actually know
American
that. And
A lot
you're
of
right, Lauren,
American media does.
I shouldn't have taken that from you because you and your family are the Columbo fans here, and I have never seen it.
Neither have I, so I didn't even catch that.
It's interesting because they have a slightly different reference in the original Japanese and in the dub. In the Japanese, as you heard, he talks about his wife, which is a running gag in that show. And then in the dub, he says, one more thing, which is another thing Columbo does.
Yeah, I do know the one more thing because that's part of the meme. But yeah, very very weird. And yeah, so they know about Sonic, and they see Cream with him, and their logical conclusion is that Sonic the Hedgehog has kidnapped Cream the Rabbit.
Well, because their client wants them to find Cream.
Well, I know that, but they
Yeah.
just assume a kidnapping
Well,
victim
yeah,
instead
that's...
of, I don't know, she's friends with him, or if he wants to keep her safe or something.
This is a funny and interesting way to bring them into the plot, because this implies that they were hired to find Cream either when she was captured by Eggman or when she disappeared, when everyone disappeared.
Right.
But that just means that for a while they had absolutely no chance at
They had no
succeeding.
leads
And
whatsoever.
they've been
so
bumbling around,
They were just
assumedly.
leading on the client, like, yeah, we're working on it.
I can absolutely see that, especially with this version of the Chaotix.
There, yeah.
They also, I think, make a joke about Sonic illegally squatting in Chris's house, which is funny. And the fourth wall breaks just don't end, because they go to Chris's house, and SBO says, it only took one scene transition to get here. Like it's a Sonic Boom episode all of a sudden, except worse. Yeah, they just act like a load of bumbling fools, honestly. They fight in the bushes until sending SBO in, where Amy immediately whacks him with the hammer. Does she do it by accident?
Yeah, she does. That legitimately got me to laugh.
Oh no, this episode is funny. Let's not
It is. I was a little... I'll admit, I was a little worried now that we're out of game adaptation territory that's going to start feeling like the earlier episodes again. But, not entirely.
It's definitely different. There's about 3 episodes in here that I'll say feel like the early show, but we're not at them yet.
Yeah, no, so far, I mean, like, I enjoyed this episode plenty mostly because of the antics of the Chaotix.
Yeah, that's something new and fresh, and from the games.
Exactly. So we're still getting stuff from the games. I think that's why it still works.
It keeps it afloat, yeah. Sonic is running somewhere, but randomly Eggman is just there to sit around having a heart-to-heart.
That was a little sudden.
Yeah, I was like, what's going on? Is he going to be like, aha, Sonic, now I'll press the button and a hand will grab you or something? No, he doesn't. Like,
no, they just have a chat.
He legitimately seems like he's just chilling for a little bit. Like, obviously he's going to do something later, but I guess he was like, well, I want to take a break before that.
Oh, right, it was Eggman in the Japanese version. That brings up the fact that if more stuff keeps coming from Mobius, there's bound to be friction.
Yeah,
which is definitely part of this, because know, the first half of the second quarter, the first half of part 2 is all game adaptations. The second half is getting closer and closer to actually going home, so they're definitely setting up the dominoes for that. And he mentions wanting to give back to the Earth before he leaves by fixing the moon. And I think what's interesting about that is that even though we know that it's probably going to be a trap, I think he also probably believes he's doing that on some level.
This Eggman definitely seems like he's doing this because he legitimately does feel like he should do this, but this is also clearly some setup for a plan.
Something sorely underexplored in the Sonic series, including the one game that was supposed to explore said thing, is what Eggman really wants and what he would do when he gets it. It's hard to say if he believes what he's doing is somehow justifiable, because, you know, he could be a megalomaniac that thinks if he runs everything, then it'll all be better, but it's really unclear. It seems like a lot of the time he's just having fun, really.
Yeah, honestly.
Especially for someone who openly identifies as evil.
Right.
But we get the resolution with this as someone steps into frame with Sonic and Eggman, and we finally have the Chaotix introduce themselves back at the mansion, except Espio, who is still recovering from his head wound. They just leave him in the bushes.
He's not as important, it's fine.
But yes, they're like, oh, we were assigned to find Cream. That's why we attacked you and thought that Sonic kidnapped her. But the reveal is in who hired them, which is to say, it's Vanilla.
It's the most obvious character to have hired them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, the character that Cream has been wanting to see for like the last 39 episodes.
Yeah, Mom's back.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? Vanilla has had a rockin' 3 lines in the entire game's canon up to this point, so I think it's good to have her in this show. Give her something to do, please.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was all a misunderstanding. Everybody laughs, including Eggman being sinister in the background, And then they just cut to SBO on the ground again as their final shot.
Mm.
He's dead.
Never see SBO ever again.
It's a very, very sitcom-y ending.
It is kind of a sitcom-y ending.
But yeah, I'm happy for Cream, I guess. What amount that she gets to exist in this show? She hasn't had much to do recently.
I mean,
No.
the most she's done is be a brat in one episode.
But yeah, so very, very silly episode, but a good silly at least right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's enjoyable.
And well, the serialization of this show does not actually end with the game adaptations. For next time on Deep Dive Zone, we are going to be covering more episodes of the show in what is dubbed the Egg Moon arc, which
Oh,
will
boy.
be something. It's not nothing.
Good.
Yeah, I sure hope it isn't nothing.
Yeah, sorry, that's a very dumb thing to say. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. That's the end of this episode. If you like this video, please feel free to like, share, comment, and subscribe. If you have any questions, comments, criticism, or feedback, please check the links in the link tree in the description. I'm forcing my way through this outro. I hope you all have a great rest of your week. We'll see you next Sunday for another episode. I hope you have a great rest of your night. And take care.